Hello, this is Kent, and this will be our second second of four reviews of C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. And again, if you haven't already, get the book, because these little reviews are just meant to be highlights. They're not meant to be anywhere near the substance of what's actually contained in the book. C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity, Book 2. Remember, these are based off radio programs. So the second book is What Christians Believe. What Christians Believe. It is phenomenal that encyclopedias, volumes and volumes, theologians have written about, this is what Christians believe. This is what Christians believe. C.S. Lewis sums it up in just a matter of a few chapters. It does a brilliant job with it. He opens actually with a review of the concepts of God, and he points out that as an atheist, you have to say that all religions of the world are altogether wrong. That all religions of the world are altogether wrong. That is the viewpoint that the atheist must take. The reason being is because that all concepts of God would be wrong. Now then, as a Christian, you don't have to say that all of the world's religions are incorrect all the way through. That there would be parts of the religion that would be right or would be spot on. And he goes and C.S. Lewis compares it to doing an arithmetic problem. He says there will only be one right answer, but other answers may be nearer to being right than others. And there again you have an allusion to natural law. But the point being is that inside the heart of man, there's a calling to God, and that the seeking of truth is universal. C.S. Lewis divides believers in God from materialists, and those who believe that, and then he divides those who believe in a cosmic God from those who believe in a personal God. A personal God, and C.S. Lewis says, it's a God that loves love and hates hate. A personal God is a God that thinks, a God that interacts, a God that's personal. The other God, the cosmic God, and this is true, is a very comfortable God to have, because you can have this cosmic God, and like Einstein, among others, would have this image of a cosmic God that gets them over the problem of how does life start, or things of that, how do planets form. But you have this cosmic God that does all the heavy lifting, and he's kind of comforting, but he really doesn't impose anything on you. You can, C.S. Lewis says, you can switch him off whenever he's inconvenient. He's not an intrusive God, but this ambiguous cosmic God is actually the God that's most popular in a lot of the world religions. It's also, the removal of good and evil from the heart of God is a big part of denominationalism and how denominationalism works. It's taking ritual over relationship. In chapter 2 of book 2, he talks about the invasion, and he goes on, he says, avoid people that make a Christian straw man. And then they attack that. They have a very childish view of the Christian God. Just avoid that altogether. Don't get caught up in denominational arguments. Don't get caught up in theological arguments that aren't with people, where you're not talking with people that are serious about discovering what truth is. C.S. Lewis goes on to talk about the fallen world, but it's a fallen world that still retains a memory of what it ought to have been. I think that's an interesting point. Ravi Zacharias is either a big fan of C.S. Lewis, or they just think a lot alike. Because Ravi Zacharias will talk about ruins, castles and cities that are in ruins, but you can almost see what it would have been like when the people were there. And that's kind of what our world is like. Our world is a fallen world, but it still retains the memory of the world it was meant to be, the world the way it should have been. He also goes on, C.S. Lewis goes on to point out that evil is a parasite that from that which is good. And this is a Christian teaching, that Satan was actually an archangel at one time, who fell from his position. and that good is what is first and prominent, and then evil is what is taken away from that. Lewis defines evil as a pursuit of that which is good, but pursuing it in the wrong way, pursuing it with the wrong motives. And toward the end of the chapter, he says that we are in enemy-occupied territory and that God is coming back. That was very reassuring. I haven't read C.S. Lewis since my early 20s. So it's been a long time. That was very reassuring to me whenever I read that we are like people that are behind enemy lines. We're in enemy territory. Man, doesn't that feel like America for Christians today? It feels like we're under siege, but God is coming back. Chapter 3 of Book 2, The Shocking Alternative. And this is where he starts moving into God giving us free will. Free will does two things. And this is on an earlier Creationist Kent video. I talk about this. Free will is what makes love possible. There is no possibility for love to exist apart from the existence of free will. But even so, free will is what makes evil possible. If there is no choice, there can be no love. And at the same time, if there is no choice, then there can be no such thing as good or evil. That evil can only exist and good can only exist in the presence of choice. By giving man choice, then God empowers man to feel love. God also empowers man to do evil. And he uses an illustration. People were eating dinner a long time before they discovered vitamins. And he's talking about people in their walk with God, is that the central Christian belief of Christ's death puts us right with God. This is in chapter 4, The Perfect Penitent. That Christ's death puts us in the right relationship with God. And he says that people were eating dinner a long time before the discovery of vitamins. That's funny, but that's so true. People were reaching out, seeking God long before the theologians came along. And you know what? If the theologians went away, people would continue to seek God. There again, C.S. Lewis emphasizes the path of the individual in the quest for love and truth as being superior to that which is theological or heady in nature. C.S. Lewis compares Jesus being both man and God as a man pulling another man from a river while still having one foot on the bank. So while he still has God, he still, as God, is in a place where it's firm, where the truth is solid. He then puts his foot into the river of the world, and he can pull mankind out of that water back onto what is solid, because he is both God and man. Chapter 5, The Practical Conclusion. Now remember, the heading of this entire book was, What Do Christians Believe? C.S. Lewis brings it down to 3 points. 3 points. The baptism, the death, burial, and resurrection. Baptism, then belief, which is faith, and then Holy Communion, which is the communion of the saints, the body and blood of Jesus Christ. So in all of the realm of all of this Christian theology, C.S. Lewis comes away with 3 basic points. Baptism, faith, Holy Communion. That is the essentials of what Christians believe. That, my friends, is awesome. That he could take what we believe, that so many people have written so much about, and bring it down to such a fine point. Lewis compares this faith existence to a living body which can heal, as opposed to a lifeless corpse which cannot. And any good that we do comes from Christ, which is inside of us. So, like, your living body gets a cut on it, that cut can heal because there's a life force inside of it. If this was just a corpse and was cut, the cut would never heal. He says this is Jesus that lives inside of the people. Whenever a person has Christ on the inside, then that person can learn, grow, develop, and heal. And any good that comes out of us is actually the result of Christ living within us. And I don't know if he intended this or not, but that's almost an exact quote from Martin Luther. Martin Luther made the statement that any good that came out of him was actually Christ that lived within him. I hope everyone is enjoying the book, C.S. Lewis and Mere Christianity. There again, it does a lot for people that have faith, but they want firmer faith, or people that are debating whether or not they can logically have faith. Now, I want to warn you once more, it is very, very heavy reading, but it is altogether worth it. I do hope you're enjoying the book. God bless you, and God be with you. Until we meet again, take care.